You're listening to Sussex Roundtable, a weekly conversational podcast that provides an inclusive space for debate and discussion around university-related topics, hosted by your student digital media gurus at the University of Sussex.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Sussex Roundtable podcast. On this week's episode, we'll be talking about the experience of coming to uni for the first time and what that entails to us. I'm Piri, I'm a first year student in media production, and these are the rest of the digital media gurus who are also helping me host this podcast.
Hi guys, I'm Emma. I'm a first year English language and literature student.
Hi everyone, my name's Josh. I'm a second year global media and communications student.
Hi, my name's Sam. I'm a first year politics, philosophy and economics student.
Hi, my name is Pai. I am a biomedical science student, second year.
So guys, why did you pick Sussex in the first place?
I think my decision to come to Sussex was based on multiple different factors. So I really liked its location. I grew up in a seaside town in Ireland, and it really reminds me of that when I first came to Sussex. Just with having the beach nearby and being surrounded by nature in the South Downs, and then also having easy access to places like London where it's a bit more built up. I think Brighton's really quirky as a location as well, but when I was choosing Sussex in particular as a university, I didn't actually know where it was necessarily. I found my degree on the bottom of page 2 of the Google search results, because I was looking for a very specific degree. I knew that I wanted to do media and communications with it being integrated in some sort of international perspective, whether that be it looking out onto other countries or it incorporating a study year abroad experience or a different language, anything to, I suppose, get myself up the job ladder in the future. So yeah, I found out about Sussex. I was looking through the website and I thought it was really interesting and really quirky and creative, and I thought that it really suited my personality. So I decided to come down for an applicant day, and then the rest is history, I suppose. But yeah, definitely because of the unique course as well.
The reason why I come to Sussex University is quite different from others, I think, because I'm an international student who is transferred to the second year in biomedical science. So coming to Sussex is kind of like coming in a pack with studying in UK. So I just want to come to UK because I want to gain experience, because I've never been living or studying abroad before, and studying in UK is one of my biggest dreams since I was in high school or something. And yeah, I think Brighton is also a good city for me. It's very nice and very a very open city. So I think I agree with Josh that Sussex has a lot of international students. So living in Brighton, having surrounded by a lot of international students is also sounds really good for me.
So like Pi, I have a pretty unique experience. This is actually my second university. I already have a degree at Southampton Solent University in film production. I mean, one of the reasons I came to Sussex, other than the fact I didn't have much of a choice, I could have gone to Brighton. I thought it kind of suited me, and I'd kind of lived next to it all my life, and I'd quite liked it. So I thought it'd be kind of good to actually do a degree there too, amongst other reasons why I did the second degree.
I wanted to come to Sussex because I'm from London. I'm very used to the city and the busy lifestyle of it, but I find the seaside quite calm. So living next to Brighton, even though the lanes are quite busy, they still give the city vibe, but it's kind of more of a chilled out version in comparison to London. So being next to Sussex, which is quite a quiet place in comparison to Brighton Uni, I think, was quite appealing to me. And there aren't many media production courses in the UK, and I wanted one that was practical, and Sussex offered that. But yeah, going off of courses, what made you guys pick the courses that you did in comparison to the others that were available?
So I do a joint degree. I do English language with English literature, and for the qualifications, I had to have done English language as an A-level, but I already did an English language and literature combined A-level itself. So I thought I've done both of them together already, and I didn't want to make the choice to really stick to one or the other. So I quite liked the fact that I could transfer and still do a joint degree that allowed me to do sort of the best of both worlds in my mind. I already knew since like the first year of A levels that I wanted to do English out of all three of my A levels, and therefore when I saw what the courses had to offer, I liked bits of both, and then I flipped the page and there was both together. So it seemed quite just sensible for me to realise I don't actually have to make a real set decision, and I get both the literature, essay writing and close reading side, along with the scientific history of language and how languages work together and how they're built and broken apart. So that's why I chose both.
I think I've already sort of addressed my reasonings a small bit in my last answer, but basically I really liked the uniqueness of my degree. I loved how it incorporated international perspectives from comparing it to, like, let's say other universities that offered similar courses. It just didn't really have that sort of edge that Sussex did. I really like my degree as well because it's like a 4-year program and it has an integrated year abroad, and it's done in exchange with the Chinese University of Hong Kong, which is like one of the world's best leading young universities as well. And it's incredibly modern, and Sussex and CHK have really good links together. So in my first year, I knew that I would be going into Sussex and there would be other first years going into the Chinese University of Hong Kong. But because of how the degree is structured, those students would come and we'd all study together within our second year. And then next year, we're supposed to go over to them and then study at their university for a year. It's all very interconnected. And I really liked that sort of globalized perspective of the degree. I was actually given a scholarship to study drama at like a Russell Group university because I'd done like an access program at the University of Manchester because that's where I'm from and where I was doing my A levels. But there was something about media, like I just definitely knew that I wanted to pursue it, and I knew that I wanted to go into it in the future. And I knew that everybody's got different perspectives, obviously, but with not being able to study drama when I was living in Ireland, because I guess the subjects that you can study are a lot more sort of, I would say maybe holistic or general, maybe is the right word to say. So instead of like having 3 different sciences, there'd just be the one. So when I'd like finished my junior cert and I did my year of like my year of transition year, optional work experience, I came over to do my A levels, and just being able to study drama for the first time, like really kind of got to me. And I was like, oh, this is really exciting. And it's so different from what I'd done before. So I got a bit sidetracked a bit doing that. But yeah, definitely when it came to like filling out the UCAS then and having graduated from Manchester, I don't regret doing that access program experience because I think I got a lot of transferable skills from it. But at the same time, I knew that when comparing the two, I definitely wanted to do media. And from looking at Sussex's past experience and its reputation within media, I thought that it was an obvious choice. And also because I'd never been to Brighton or anywhere down south before, so I wanted the extra independence, I suppose.
Yeah, well, why did I pick this course is based mainly from what I want to study. But just to note that, like, because before I transferred to Sussex, I was also studying the biomedical science in the university in Thailand. So, like, when transferred to the Sussex, like, it just has to be biomedical science. But why did I pick this course is that because I love to study, like, human anatomy, like physiology, something like that. It's something that I realized when I was in high school. And I also realized, like, well, that thoughts of like to study about human structure comes first, and that made me thought that, oh, maybe I like to study in medical school, and that was like my first dream, my first goal. And but when I study like more and more and like get a chance to like do some laboratory session, practical sessions, and get to know more about the like being a doctor, life of being a doctor, something like that, I realized that like don't I don't really want to be a doctor. I just I'm just not good at talking to people. So, and also I realized that like I like to spend my time in lab. I don't know if it sounds weird or not, but I enjoy doing lab. I enjoy like doing experiment, something like that.
I do politics, philosophy, and economics, and out of all three of those, politics is the one I really like, and I'd want to get into. I think what got me interested in politics in the first place was when I was in sixth form. I was doing completely different A levels. I was doing film related A levels, and the 2015 general election was on, and I became enthralled by politics then. And then what got me even deeper into that was you had the whole Brexit referendum and Trump getting elected, and it became entertaining. And from that, or entertaining from my point of view anyway. And from there, I got really into looking at politics. But I'd always been quite into philosophy anyway. So I did my first degree and I kept track of politics all the way. And then I realised I really wanted to do a degree in politics and philosophy. And economics just made me more employable, although I do like it. It's quite mathsy based and it's quite hard. And economics right now is great because it's very interesting because you've got the government bailing out everybody, and that's going to have massive economic consequences. So it's just, I think it's current events that got me really into why I studied, why I want to do politics, philosophy, and economics, and then doing it at Sussex, it kind of was a nice fit. So yeah.
I think it's really interesting that really dense subjects like Brexit and Donald Trump got you into politics.
Yeah.
For some people, that might be like a really big turn-off.
Yeah, be a deterrent, but it's made you want to do it more. I think for me, I think I've touched on it before in terms of media production being, or Sussex being one of the only places that really do media production practically. But kind of like you, Josh, I've done drama. I did drama at GCSEs, and then I did it for A levels, drama and theatre. So I've done drama for 5 years, and during A levels, I also did media, but my media was mainly like theory based. And I really wanted to get into something practical. I feel like that's what they kind of do during A levels. It's very rare that you get much practical work at low level education anyway. So if it wasn't for media, I would have probably gone into drama. But yeah, I really wanted to do something more practical, and I love the course that they have at Sussex because in the first year of media production, they kind of let you like dip your toes into everything. So you kind of have a choice of whatever you wanted to do, and throughout the years, you kind of select and pick whatever like section, either sound design or documentary or photography, that you want to go down in the years to your portfolio at the end of third year. But yeah, it's been great, I think.
One of the really nice parts about Sussex as well is that it sort of prides itself on its interdisciplinarity as well. So I may be studying, I guess you could say, a slightly more balanced theoretical with practical degree, with it being global media. Rather than you doing like media production theory. But at the same time, within my first and second years, I've been able to like dip into more practical modules as well, because I find that I learn a lot easier with doing things more hands-on and being quite practical with it as well. So I like how you can customize your course here for it to like suit you as well.
And I think on top of that, as much as there is our like core modules from our like degrees, when you are picking your, I think people should like know that when you are picking your degrees, there are things called electives which you can choose. And because I've done history before and I really enjoy American history, this term I've done American history as one of the electives that I do, even though I do media production. Then last time I did philosophy. So it kind of is making up whatever you want to study, and you kind of have a lot more freedom.
Depending on the amount of like electives that you choose from a particular school, it could end up becoming a pathway, which then in turn becomes a minor on your degree certificate as well.
If you're a joint student, you can't choose electives, just to let you know, because you have to separate your time equally amongst both degrees to have them both in your certificate. You can't do both and then electives. That is something to think about. If you do really like 2 subjects but really want to like develop yourself and do different topics and different electives, then perhaps choose one and know that you can do electives in your second favourite or like second, third and fifth throughout your degrees, just options. But just to let you know, if you're thinking about doing a joint degree, you can't choose an elective.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people have been mentioning about A levels and something like that, and that makes me also curious because as a student myself, I didn't come from A level system, So, how did your studies change from A levels? Like, is it relaxed or is it a big jump for you?
I did for my A levels. I only did 3, but I did like an extra qualification, which was like a preparing for university program. I got like a merit in it, and it was just supposed to help students that haven't gone to uni before to gain some skills that could be transferable, which definitely was. But I did 3 really essay based A levels. I did sociology, history, and English combined. And therefore, a lot of what I did, like essay plans, reading, close reading, were all stuff that I do now, but just more increased. And I probably think the way that I do my essays is slightly more professional now. We didn't have to reference and stuff when I'm doing A levels, which is a whole new game, trying to learn referencing. But in terms of the jump, I would say I was a proper nerd, like really, really, really nerdy. I used to like look like a CSI agent in my room. I had mind maps everywhere, connected with like highlighters. Actually covered my room with notes. So I think because I really, really applied myself for A levels, probably more than normal, I definitely went OTT with the studying. I therefore didn't think the jump was as big because I kept the same work ethic. But I think if someone perhaps wasn't, then university could be, but not necessarily has to be, a bigger jump. But for me, I didn't actually feel like it was too big a jump.
I felt like the jump from like the Irish equivalent of the GCSEs, which is the junior cert, and then doing the optional work experience year, and then going straight into the sort of rigorous academic schedule that is A levels, was way larger than potentially doing A levels and then going right into university. I feel like university, the concept of it can be really daunting and maybe intimidating for people, especially like myself, who's like a first generation scholar and doesn't have the sort of familial experience or the familial reference to be able to sort of tell you what a university experience is like or give you any tips or advice. But I would say that a lot of the topics, at least at the beginning of first year, was sort of recapping over A levels, and they really sort of smoothly allowed you to like get into the university experience. But then the assessment methods and the deadlines and the self-discipline is all just incredibly different. And I feel like that's never something that you can quite conquer, I suppose, unless you're really rigorous with yourself. Like even coming to the end of second year now, I'm still struggling with my sort of balance, work study life balance, and we might speak about that a little bit more into the call. But yeah, I think A levels, just for reference, I did English literature, media studies, drama and theatre studies as my like 3 final A levels, but then I did photography in AS as well. So it was definitely like a combination of theoretical and practical modules that I'd taken. And I mainly took them because I like wanted to go into journalism. So I found that a lot of the experience of writing or analyzing different topics like connotations and stuff within English specifically, and then all of the media theory that you learn from doing media, and then all of the practical aspects of drama, it all really comes together and really supports you and gives you like the transferable skills that you need to go into university. So I would say that it's not as daunting as maybe some people might think it is, because A levels are hard.
Yeah, they really are. And going on from that, like for me, I feel like it was the first time I guess I was properly doing a production degree. They teach you from basics. You don't really everyone's on the kind of same playing field. When it comes to uni, when you start, there's no one that's expected. If you have extra knowledge in the industry that you're going into, that's great. It's going to benefit you, but there's still chance for you to learn more. And I think there's a lot more time that you have in terms of working, and how much contact hours as well during the week vary depending on subjects. So yeah, for me, I did, as a reference, I did media studies, drama and theatre, and history for my A levels. And they were very, even though drama and theatre sounds practical, I did coursework for it, and I had like a written exam for drama.
Yeah, I did as well.
Yeah,
I did as well. It's deceiving.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a lot more like written and like writing based, but whereas now I think I feel more comfortable just I feel better in my course because I can finally do something that's more practical and hands-on, which is, as a student, that's what I'm used to. So for me, I wouldn't say, if anything, it wasn't really a big jump. It was more relaxed, and I can go at my own pace. Whereas I feel like at A levels, a lot of people have that tense, stressed out mentality. Where, I mean, of course, we get that mindset when we have deadlines. I think everyone does, but I think it's a lot more relaxed, and you can go at your own pace, kind of thing. But yeah,
I think that's very interesting. Like listening to everyone like talking about A levels, because yeah, I'm still struggling to like get an idea of like what A level actually is. But like listening to everyone's like, okay, I'm getting load of information about this. Yeah, and also because as I've mentioned that I transferred from another university in Thailand, so like I'd say it's a huge difference in studying between like the two universities, because the learning technique, the way lectures are delivered, how the class looks like, and it's a lot of difference.
See, I'm kind of unique in this way. I did my A levels were I did 4 AS levels and 3 A levels. I'm that old, and
Oh no, I'm the
okay,
same.
right.
I'm the same.
And I did a mix of very kind of not practical for A-level based subjects like film studies and creative media, stuff like that. I also did English literature and English language. So I had a mixture of practical and theory-based stuff. And then I come to my first university, which was very practical. And I forget all about doing academic stuff. It's all cool. It's all, yeah, I just forget about doing it. And then I come here, and then I have to remember how to do academia again. I just have to remember, and it was kind of hard. But I'll always say this: I feel like the jump between GCSEs and A levels is far larger than the jump between A levels and university.
And I don't think many people talk about it at all. I just remember a lot of my teachers being like, A levels are going to be harder than university, and you're going to hate your life for the next 2 years. But they wouldn't tell me why. So it was just like an unspoken like hatred that everyone would have about A levels. But yeah, you would have to experience it to understand it.
It's like a stereotype that nobody really questions, and I feel like Sussex, Sussex's entire ethos as well is sort of questioning long established sort of things we take for granted anyway, and there's lots of questioning people here. So I think it suits the topic in general. So when it came to coming to university and actually starting your first year, for those who did live in student accommodation, how did you find living by yourself for the first time, and is there anything that you learned?
I think for me, because I am a first year and I lived at East Slope, in East Slope you live with 11 other people. You kind of realise that you have to like share your space, because I had a shared bathroom, which wasn't too bad because I only had to share it with one other flatmate, but it is kind of like managing your space and understand other people's like boundaries as well, because if say for showering, I'm a night showerer, so I prefer to be up late at night and just having a shower, but me and my flatmate worked out that she preferred to be using the bathroom in the morning. So it's kind of just finding like a middle ground between you and your flatmates in terms of things. And yeah, living space is just clearing up. As much as you might want to have your own space, a lot of people won't clear up, and I was that flatmate that would clear up after everyone. I wouldn't even do it because it was like to be nice. It was just for my own sanity. I think you have to get, especially if you're not used to things being done by yourself or your parents or your family doing things for you, it's definite shock, I would say, if you struggle with that. And it's like kind of learning to be independent and comfortable with your own company. I think the one thing that you do have, or what I did anyway, privacy is quite a nice thing at uni, because you get to have your own space in your own room and your own time, kind of thing. But yeah,
I thought that was pretty cool as well about being like in an on-campus accommodation. I was in York House, which is part of like the Park Houses sort of bracket. So depending on when you listen to this, it may be there, it may be not, because I know that some parts are being taken down in order to provide for the new West Slope that's being built on campus at the minute. But yeah, I had a pretty good experience. I would say that my main worry about going into like shared sort of student living is the sort of stereotypes about how messy students can be or about not getting enough sleep, which were all definitely factors to consider. And it happened, but it didn't happen that much. And it was really reasonable to say that we were all like teenagers, young adults. Really liked the location of it on campus. I worked in the co-op in first year, and it was like a minute to walk there whenever I had work, which was fabulous. Whenever I had a 6 a.m. shift, I would say that that was probably the biggest plus. I was mainly worried about having to share like bathrooms and stuff with 11, 12 other people, but it worked out really well. I thought that there'd be queues for the showers, that we wouldn't be able to like cook dinner, that we'd all be on top of each other, but it really wasn't the case at all because everybody in the flat sort of settles into a routine and you just have to be organized but not militant about things. So let's say if it was somebody's turn to take out the bins and you made a list and they didn't do it, like there's no point in being passive aggressive at them about it. It's just, I would say, just maintain communication, and communication is key in student halls anyway, because sometimes it can feel like you're all living on top of each other, but then at other times it can be really nice to have that shared communal atmosphere. Yeah. But yeah, how about Emma and Sam then? Because both of you live at home, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, living at home, I guess you don't have to do as many adjustments. There's no scary, oh my God, I'm going to have to like move everything around. I'm going to have to find like a new bed, like mattress topper, which I know loads of people recommend if you're moving into student accommodation. Yes. But like I didn't do like a massive IKEA trip. I actually bought myself a desk because my room didn't have a desk in it. It just had like my bed in it. So there was some adjustments that I made to my own home space for uni because I knew I'd be having to like work more and work independently, and sometimes I wouldn't be at uni all the time and I wouldn't have the library just like across campus for me, so I needed a place where I could work. Living at home has its benefits 100%. Like I think I did mine mainly for a financial reason, and also like a massive personal thing happened in my life that just meant I couldn't choose to stay in accommodation, so I therefore just had like to make do with what I have, which actually is amazing. It's what I've had my whole life. I've not had to really worry about bills as such. I've not had the same pressures that come with, oh my God, I'm being thrown to adult straight away. So I think for me, not a lot has changed, minus the fact that I've suddenly become a morning person just because of my commute. Before going to uni, I was not, but with my commute being an hour in total, adding in like changing of trains and like walking to the station, walking from the station to campus, it is an hour, and I don't like to be late at all. I don't like the fact that trains could be delayed. I've actually really not been affected. I think a lot of people worry if they're staying at home about the trains and being delayed, but it's only happened to me twice, touch words, that it's been really good. So I would just say that because I don't want to be late, I've had to seriously wake up early for some like 9 a.m. lectures, which hasn't been fun, but I've gotten used to it. Like you just do. You'd have to do it for a job anyway. So
for me, it's strange because I've lived in halls before, and so I can compare it. It's much more comfortable living at home, but the hardest thing for me, I guess, is the social life. You have to try and create a social life outside of halls. So most people don't realise it, but at least in first and second year, a good bulk of your social life comes from the friends you make in halls. And when you don't have that, it's hard. So I guess that's what I struggled with. But I live very, very close to campus. So in that respect, it's a quite weird situation because I live at home, but it's right next to campus. So I've got a bit of both. It is a very kind of weirdish situation. And I still kind of live with my family and some of those guys like 12 or 13. So it's quite a weird mix. But yeah, I enjoyed the mix.
So I just wanted to know how you guys have managed with changing to going to uni and being a uni student, your like maintenance loan. Did you apply for one? And if you did, like how have you been managing your money in terms of jobs just alongside university?
I come from like a working class family. So as a British national, I've been able to apply for like Student Finance England loan and get, I would say, on maybe the upper end of the spectrum for it. So it's been nice being able to like have that loan as a safety net, because otherwise there's no way that I would probably ever be able to come to university. That doesn't mean that I've not supported myself though as well. Within first year, I worked part-time on the university campus. And then this year as well, I have like multiple different part-time freelancing jobs as well. So I quite like the balance of supporting myself and being independent, and then also sort of juggling the university life as well. I think it's the experience that you get out of it, and I think it develops you into a stronger person as well.
For me, come from a middle class family as well, it's kind of like, as much as like the student loan can help you, I feel like there's something so rewarding about finding your own job and being able to make your own money and live off it, and not have to like live off your parents or rely on someone else. So yeah, I think that's been great in terms of coming to uni, because you can like find your own work. And I think a lot of students, they get kind of dragged into especially in Freshers Week and like the first few weeks of like partying and going out, and obviously there's like the mindset of like going out and like making as many friends as you can, but I feel like a lot of students do have to keep in mind about money, and it's so easy to like lose track of things, and you'll lose track of time, and it will come down to like, I don't know, week 13 in term 1, and you literally only got a few £100 left to salvage yourself. So prioritize like food and like your well-being, and even just pay like rent as well. Make sure that you have enough money, and try to keep yourself afloat. I feel like a lot of students, especially in the first term, kind of let themselves sink and get carried away. But yeah,
I completely agree with Kiri, because like I also have a hard time during the first month of like arriving in UK, because as an international student, like I didn't get the student loan, and like it is my mom who's like giving me like monthly, I'd say, salary for me to live in UK. And it was like during the first month I spent a lot of money and like eating in restaurants and like buying a lot of food and shopping online. Maybe I get too excited about UK, and but like my mom always remind me to like do the kind of like expense tracking every month to see like, okay, if I spend too much money on something. And that's really helpful, because it helps me realize, okay, I eat too much this month, I have to try again next month. And even though like my mom said that if you have a problem, like you can just like explain with a good reason, and she will kind of like give extra money next month, something like that. But I try to limit myself to what she gives like at the beginning of each month, because I think that's a very good way to practice like self-discipline and something like that. And I think I was getting better in a later month. Like I can control what I want to eat. I can control like, okay, I have to eat like going out less, and like order a lot of food from supermarket, cooking a lot, and that really saves a lot of money.
Also, just to throw out another question, in terms of Sam and Emma, because you guys live at home, has like your money spending on social life increased because you kind of have, or do you feel obliged that you have to make that effort in terms of social life because you live at home?
I'm in a kind of difficult situation. So I'm able to pay for my degree, my second degree, because I live at home. But I can't quite pay for all of it. I can't quite pay for the second half. I need to work. So I'm in a difficult situation where I'm having to balance out paying for social life with paying for my degree. So every time I spend on the social life, it means I have to try and salvage some money somewhere else for the degree. So I'm kind of torn there. Whereas I don't have to think about rent. So that's where I'm at.
I think for me, coming to uni, I knew that I would be I don't know, because I was staying at home, I really made an effort to try and keep my life at home similar. So I still have like people and friends that I've had, because I've got my part-time job is still where I live. So I have people that I know that I try and go out with where I'm at home, as well as the people that I've met at uni. And I also feel like perhaps something that you don't necessarily have to consider if you're living at uni is I can't be spontaneous with nights out. For example, if I'm in on a Tuesday, which used to be my longest day, I had like 3 on classes and I didn't finish till 7, and I didn't normally bring my dinner with me, to someone to then turn around and be like, oh my God, we're all going out. I'd be like, right, okay. I don't have any makeup on, which personally I would like to do. I've not like changed. I've got my laptop. Unless you're offering me to stay over, I've got to like really consider like, oh, I can't just pop home and change, like an hour commute home to then come an hour's back, in which case you've already finished prees, you're already getting some kind of wavy and I'm not there. So I think it is about just like planning time, and therefore I guess perhaps I have saved some money, because Freshers Week was not one big bash like I think some people can have it. So I think money with staying at home perhaps is more sensible, in terms of like I have to think about when and where I can go out, which perhaps people who stay at campus don't. But I don't necessarily think it's been like a damage thing. It's just I need to pick and choose the days I can and can't, and try and encourage people that I'm with to, you know, to maybe consider me in terms of their plans, just to be like, oh wait, are you free? Can you do this? Rather than come with us tonight. And it's like, oh, I wish I could. I really wish I could, but I can't. I just can't.
Yeah, I think that goes for everyone though. The form of like self-discipline, but then also treating yourself and trying to find that balance.
I think it's also really worth noting as well, and recognizing that Brighton is perhaps one of the more expensive places to live in the UK. It's a really desirable location right by the sea. It's got good links with London. A lot of people live here and commute into London for their daily work. So obviously the prices of things are going to be naturally higher. So you would be paying more for your general quality of life here than maybe you would be, let's say, if you had an enhanced loan, if you went to a university in London or went someplace up north. But at the same time, to subsidise that, what made Sussex really appealing for me was the fact that they have fantastic scholarships. And I would say to any prospective students that are wanting to come to the university, definitely look into those and try and reap the rewards of them. There are definitely some that provide financial incentives, such as the Sussex Excellence Scholarship, which I think is £3,000. But you've also got the First Generation Scholarship Scheme as well, which at least when I was starting was £2,000 that you would receive in your first year, and then £1,000 per year for every year then that you're on your degree. But I think that's given to you if your family income is below a specific threshold, but also then combined with that, if you're a student like Emma or I that are the first to attend university in your family, they'll provide additional support, whether that be academic support or different opportunities that you may not necessarily have if it weren't for that scheme as well. I think I mentioned it in the last episode, but they have different programs like the Global Internship Program or different placements that you can take advantage of as well. And if you're someone in our position that doesn't necessarily have the contacts as a links, it can be really invaluable. So that all ties in with the money side of it as well.
But in terms of like Brighton as a city, I guess that's unique for us in terms of going to Sussex, but just out to anyone, even Sam previously from your other university, how long did it take you guys to get used to the cities that you're in, and when did you exactly feel settled?
It's actually interesting because I always saw, because I live like roughly an hour away, like I keep saying, I've always been going to Brighton as like a real treat. We used to save up money to go spend in Brighton, because Brighton had like way more shops than where my like hometown has, and also like the big pier, the sea life when I was younger was like something that we used to do. So, and going to go see like the Royal Pavilion building, it's always been a treat. We've always had like a motive to go to Brighton. It's always going to be a treat. Whereas now I think, because I go to uni there and I'm there all the time, and I really don't want this to sound bad at all, but it's no longer the treat. It's where I go for work, which is cool. But the way in which I've looked at the city is different, because I've gotten used to it now. Whereas before it'd be like, North Lane, what's this? Sorry, is that the pier? Now it's just like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna go down, or should we go meet on Queen Lane? Like, can we go? So it's just fine.
Even though I've been at Sussex since like September 2018, which makes me feel ancient. I hadn't come to Brighton or anywhere down south before I actually was accepted by Sussex and came for my applicant day, which I think was in the April before the September when I started. And it was like a fabulous weekend. I have a whole complicated story about how dramatic me traveling down to Sussex was. It involved lost train tickets, being sunburnt and falling asleep on the beach, having to stay in a hostel, missing buses, missing taxis, missing trains, having somebody pay for my train. Anyway, whole drama. So apart from that, I just really fell in love with the city when I came down for the first time, and I don't think that love has ever changed. On the topic of like whether you get used to the city or whether you settle in, I think it was like a really gradual process. So I wouldn't say that there was like an instant moment in which I felt really at home. I've moved quite a lot in my life. I've moved about 10 times. So the novelty of moving is definitely something that I'm not affected by anymore. So home for me is where I am, and not necessarily where my family is, because we're kind of all split up around the British Isles. But yeah, it's just definitely where I am in the moment. And Brighton became that place immediately as I moved down. And I'd always felt comfortable here. It's open, international, diverse. I've never felt unsafe in Brighton. It's just a really sort of eclectic bohemian city, and I really appreciate it for being that. And I felt like I just blended in immediately.
Untouched. Okay. Okay. For me, it's kind of like a very exciting experience. Well, I'd say mixed feeling, because it's a mix of like exciting, thrilling, and also horrifying, because it's the first time that I have to live abroad alone. So I am exciting because like it has always been my dream living abroad, and especially it's the UK. Yeah. But I also have a lot of questions to myself, like will I be able to take care of myself? Will I be able to manage a lot of things that I'm not used to do it, because like my parents used to do it for me, especially like taking care of my health, a lot of like supermarket things, what do I need to buy, what do I need to use to fix this? And like I've got a lot of problems during like the very first month that I moved into Brighton. But I think with the help of my family, like through video call, I can manage to like get through everything. And I really love like living in Brighton. And just like Emma, like every time my family visits me, like they always be like so excited, like, oh, what is this? Look at that! Oh, the beach, something like that. And I'll always like act cool, like yeah, I've done it thousands of times. Stop, something like that. And I think I start to get settled after around the first semester. Like I think so. I'm not really sure about it, but yeah, I really enjoy living in Brighton so far.
So in about 1998, I was born, and I quite
Me, it was kind of like I had always gone to Brighton with my family for like weekend trips and stuff like that, and my mum always loves Brighton. And then for me to go to uni there was kind of like quite nice and warming, because it was a place that I felt safe in. It's very bohemian, like you said, Josh, but it's very nice. There's so much culture, and everyone's just nice. In London, everyone's just so in their head, and
the reason they call it Soho by the Sea.
Yeah, literally.
And talking about living away from a family, because a lot of us might be like living away from a family, like do you miss your family or friends back home?
So whilst I probably can't relate to the family side, because I still live with pretty much all members of my family, well, my immediate family anyway.
They're gagging for you to leave.
I think I definitely say like a lot of friends that I had have all like moved off to their own universities, and also all the friends that I have at Sussex I don't get to see as regularly as I'd like to. I think throughout week to week, also with like my part-time job at home, there's just less time that I am free. So I think whilst everyone says social media has negative effects, I think it's been really vital in like still keeping in contact, or even just like witnessing from afar through people's like Snapchat stories or like Instagram stories, just seeing what they're up to, and like still feeling like, oh, okay, cool, they're doing that, and just getting to see still through like a screen them and like their lives. It's been really nice. So I think whilst my situation is probably slightly different, I definitely think I've got a unique thing of like missing friends that you probably have quite closer to you if you were at campus.
Despite our contrasting situations, though, I really shadow what you said about social media. Being somebody that's obviously originally from the UK, but moving to Ireland when I was a few months old, it's kind of separated from my extended family for the majority of my younger life anyway, since it was just my parents and my sisters that I lived with. I would always like travel back over to family, but there would always be that distance anyway. So when I moved back to the UK when I was 16, and I swear this all makes sense, I'm coming to the answer, but there was a lot of friendships that I would like have to physically leave behind, but in a nice way, it really makes you cherish the sort of people that you miss that you can't see anymore, and it incentivizes you to like chat a lot more often. Like one of my best friends I met when I was a teenager, and we're still in touch to this day, even though we see each other maybe 2 times a year. So I would say that I've basically just brought that mentality into my university life as well. Whilst some of my close family are in the UK, I'm still hundreds of miles from them, and I don't get to see them that often, with obviously the current situation that we're in, the global pandemic really escalating things. But at the same time, I know that coming to university and living this experience is something that I'll probably only be able to do once, maybe twice, if I'm Sam. But yeah, I know that whilst it may be difficult to be away from family, I know that it's the best thing for my own personal growth. And also, social media is fantastic for being able to stay in touch with people. Even if you're not directly communicating with them, you can still see what they're up to and kind of stalk them through Instagram stories. So that's my story.
I do find myself often kind of missing my friends at my first uni. And that's kind of how I can relate to that question. But apart from that, I'm quite settled here.
I think for me, it's kind of been the one thing I do come back home for, I guess, is to see my family and my friends, and that's the one thing I miss out because most of my friends have gone up north. It's really hard. Even I know a lot of students travel to go and see their friends at uni, but traveling from the south all the way up to the north is quite difficult. And in terms of like train lines and buses, it takes so long. Just to see them for a weekend or a night out.
It takes me about 6 hours on the train to get home with 4 connections.
Literally. So honestly, like you guys were saying, social media has been amazing. Like FaceTiming, calling, and even just small little messages and checking up on friends has been great. And I do miss my friends because coming back to A levels again, I feel like you and your friends are in a very like compact environment where you guys are going through the same experiences, and then to be like pushed away and then be put into new environments where you guys do become new people, I feel like it's quite hard to keep in contact, but social media has allowed that to happen.
Yeah. Well, for me, like it's really hard to like thinking of like go back to see my friends and family so often because they obviously living like 1,000 miles away from me. But I think video call, like frequent video call, really, really helpful for me. Like especially with my family because I will always like phone call or make a video call with them at least once a week. And I think, well, do I miss my friends and my family? Yes, but I think they're also me and them also excited for my adventure in UK. And every week I will always like tell them about many things that I discovered, what dish that I successfully learned to cook, or weird things that I have encountered, something like that. And I think those new experience that I get makes me like almost completely forget about like how I miss them a lot because I don't know if we kind of like drowned in the feeling of like how we miss our friends and our family too much, it's just like kind of making you becoming a little bit of homesick. So I think having like a lot of things, a lot of stories to tell your friends and your family, excited to show them about like a lot of things. It's just like kind of like a really good thing to keep in touch with your family.
So I suppose to round off the podcast then as well, it must be quite worrying being a prospective student at the minute, not even just being an applicant to Sussex, but just being a student more generally that's wanting to go into university. What sort of advice would you give to upcoming students, whether that be masters, bachelors that are coming into university, and what sort of words of wisdom would you give them being a student that's having to be studying within this quarantine?
I think we are in a very, very unique situation in terms of the global pandemic. And the only thing I think people should at least try to do is be hopeful, because university, regardless of whatever is going on, is an amazing experience that a lot of people look back at and wish they were still doing. And they're only like a few years in your life, and they make you grow as a person, or at least that's what I've found. So I think for students that are currently applying to university is just to try to be as hopeful as possible, and just try not to get so bugged up in everything that's going on, because even though it might take a lot longer than what the normal natural process might be, I feel like university is still an experience and a place that a lot of people will still want to go to.
I think it could be really exciting to redefine university once it all goes back to normal, because there will be some things that you might hear from students before you about things they would have liked to have changed, things of which they perhaps weren't happy with but would have loved to have had, which you guys can be the pioneers of. And I guess it's going to make all those memories so much sweeter once you do get to have them. So I think perhaps it's not necessarily the be all and end all that the start of uni might be a little bit disruptive, but hopefully, like you said, it's going to be 2, 3, even 4 years of your life, perhaps even longer if you're a med student, where you can still experience university. It's just going to be the start, and I think everyone's going to have a really different start anyway. I think freshers for a lot of people is really bigged up, and I think a lot of people feel like they're going to miss out on the best week of their life, which I actually think once you find your course mates, once you find your true friendship group, that is when you're going to start having the true good times, rather than the first few weeks where you're still getting to know everyone and everyone's still semi-awkward around each other.
Yeah, I think that's true, because in Freshers Week, everyone's just friendly with everyone, but everyone's kind of in the same boat of trying to find the genuine people that they connect with. And I feel like starting uni, as much as first year is about having fun, I think it's kind of almost comforting that first year is disrupted, rather than say if you're a second year or third year student, because the global pandemic has put a real strain on those students. So it's a very unique situation that everyone's in.
I would say, on speaking about being a second year student, Sussex has been great in developing the no detriment policies and having extended deadlines, all of which we've covered in a previous episode. But I would say that knowing what I know now and knowing how the world would sort of play out, if you were to ask me again in 2017, knowing what I know, would I still go to university, and would I still live through what I have done now? I would say yes. There's nothing I would change about it. I've still been able to grow as a person, make loads of friends, and experience loads of different things that I never would have been able to if I'd have just stayed at home. I think the uncertainty around the situation within the world right now might lead some people into thinking that maybe postponing certain plans might be the best protocol or best thing to follow for them. What I would say is, because we don't really know how long the situation is going to last for, and speaking on the experience of the fact that I'm meant to be going on my study year abroad in September, and if that doesn't work out, there's no there's no repeats, there's no go back seas. So I believe, while I'm trying to be as optimistic as possible, and I'm thinking that everything happens for a reason, and I just don't want to put my life on pause, really. I'm just sticking with the government guidelines. I'm trying not to stress about things that aren't in my control. If I were to postpone my plans and decide to take a year out, if that's even an option, it would literally just be putting my life on pause while the rest of the world runs around me. And I don't think I'd be comfortable with that. So I think you've just got to reevaluate your own situation when it comes to decisions like that.
And I think on top of that, it's kind of like if you are a student that's coming from A levels going into uni, this summer is one of the most like freeing and just the time that when you have the most freedom and you can finally make decisions that are for you. And I feel like rather than, as much as there is so much uncertainty around going to uni and everything that we've talked about, I feel like the one thing that you shouldn't do is get stressed about it and worked up about it, because that stress is going to lead you to nothing. And I feel like you should try and enjoy as much as the time that you have with your friends and family that you can before you do depart and like begin your like independent life.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And also, I think one good thing to think about during this time, other than just kind of obsessed with the thoughts of like, when will I get back to uni? When will the uni start and coming back to normal? Is just like looking forward to the new good things that you might be experiencing in the next few years of your life. Because, well, I think missing like the freshers week, for example, might be bad for your like starting for your first year of uni. But I think that like there are many more good things to come, and I know that it's going to be over like eventually.
And as we've all seen as well over the past few weeks, the situation can change really rapidly. So I think it'd be really awful to make a premature decision about what investment you want to make in your life now for only everything to potentially return back to normal and go ahead without you. So there's lots of different things to consider, and nobody can really tell people what the best option is. We're just here to provide our experience and knowledge.
But yeah, I think all that we can say, and for any students out there, for them to do is just to stay as optimistic as you possibly can and enjoy the time that we have, like we mentioned in last week's episode.
Yeah, and if you're worried about coming to university as well, reach out to current students.
Yeah,
we're all friendly.
As digital media gurus, like you guys can reach out to us, and even the student like experience and responses are the best because we're living in it and they're genuine as well. But yeah, thank you guys for this week's episode. Thank you to the digital media gurus for helping me host this episode, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye guys.